The background here is that Yoon, since he came into office in 2022, has faced divided government. The National Assembly has remained under opposition control. It was strengthened in an election that took place in April. And since that point, the opposition party has been increasingly personalizing its politics and spending a lot of its time pursuing investigations or attempting investigations against his wife, bringing articles of impeachment against members of his inner circle, and basically trying to sort of, cave in and encroach upon Yoon's ability to operate domestically and essentially render him a lame duck only halfway through his presidential term.
The actions of the opposition, they are opposition actions that we've seen, dare I say, in Washington, D.C. We've seen it all over the world, that doesn't make them pro-North Korea sympathisers. And I think this is the side of the story that a lot of people just want clarity on, if it is possible, Jeremy, that actually with North Korea as perhaps the most dangerous neighbour on the planet that any country could have as well. Just give us that side of the equation as well. Is this just politicians being politicians, or is there something more serious going on, as the president initially insinuated?
So I think the North Korea element is a red herring. If you read Yoon's statement in his initial address to the public, he's focusing on the National Assembly, the legislators that are standing in the way of his essentially ability to govern. He tars them with the brush of being, pro North Korea, anti-state sympathizers, but that's really just rhetoric to sort of reinforce the message, which is that what they're doing is undermining his ability to govern.
Jeremy, South Korea has used martial law before, but not really in recent memory, many decades ago. In this context, when you've got a huge US military base also positioned in South Korea, what are the optics and what sort of messages is South Korea sending to the international community here?
Optics are not great. With that said, I don't think that the effort by Yoon had a particularly external locus. I think it was directed almost entirely domestically. You saw in the response from Washington, it was quite measured. Not pleasant or not pleased language out of Washington, and relief when the martial law announcement was lifted 6 hours later. But with that said, we do believe that the capitals of Washington and Tokyo are probably looking on with great unease, not only at the initial announcement of martial law, but the further steps and sort of outcomes yet to come, which probably results in Yoon's early resignation from office, if not removal through impeachment, and probably the election a few months hence of a very different figure in Mr. Lee Jae-myung, the leader of the opposition party.
Jeremy, I think it's fair to say there's a lot of sensitivity about the fortunes of democracies at this stage, and seeing troops on the ground, martial law declared, it did have a very negative connotation for democracies. What type of fallout do you expect for South Korea and beyond because of this event where, if brute force has been deployed when perhaps there could have been a democratic process involved here? This seemed like a last resort by a president where perhaps he shouldn't have pulled that trigger.
Absolutely. I think there will be history books written about what exactly motivated Yoon to make this decision. I think it's generously described as an act of desperation. More people describe it, I think, as an act of political suicide. That is, if it was intended to forestall the impeachment or his removal from office, it, if anything, backfired and is likely to accelerate that process. I think that he's a dead man walking and is likely gone within weeks, and potentially could be facing imprisonment for himself, for his wife, and members of his inner circle.